Hi there, welcome back. Sociological perspectives. This is the topic which we are going to deal in this video. Sociological perspective means how sociologists view society. There are various views by different sociologists. They have their own way of understanding the society. They have their own way of understanding the changes takes place in society. So this point of view by the sociologist will be in a theoretical manner, because sociologists observe, experiment and compare society scientifically. So the sociological perspectives are theoretical perspectives. Theoretical perspective means a broad assumption about society and social behavior. This assumption, the assumption about society and social behavior, provide a point of view based on society. And this point of view helps to study specific problems exist in society. The three major perspectives in sociology are functionalist perspective, conflict perspective, and interactionist perspective. So let's look into these perspectives in detail. Functionalist perspective. The main contributions are from Herbert Spencer and Emil Durkheim. The functionalist views society as a living organism, in which each part of the organism contributes to its survival. Functionalists give importance to the way that parts of a society are structured to maintain its stability. Functionalist theory assumes that society has a tendency to be an organized, stable, well-integrated system. So Herbert Spencer compared society as living organism. Organism consists of number of interrelated parts like head, limbs, heart, blood veins, nervous system, and so on. Each of these parts has a function to play. In the same way, a society has a structure. It also consists of interrelated parts such as family, religion, economy, education, and so on. Each of these parts has a function to contribute to the overall stability of the social system. In the functionalist view, a society has a tendency to be in equilibrium or balance. Social change will be disruptive unless it happens in a slow and gradual manner, because change in one part will automatically bring about changes in other parts too. For example, economic depression in a society may create unemployment. Due to this unemployment, an individual will lose the stability in his life. It affects the family as a whole, education of the children, and so on. So a change in one part of the society will affect the other parts too. So the social change should be in a gradual manner, otherwise it affects the stability and equilibrium of the society. Another example is that social changes occur through war and revolution disrupt the equilibrium of the society, because it brings sudden changes in society. Functionalism assumes that social systems have its own functions or dysfunctions. The proper functions add to the stability of the order, whereas the dysfunctions may disrupt the social equilibrium. Functionalism makes a distinction between manifest functions and latent functions. Manifest functions are obvious and intended, which means the functions can be perceived and planned. We can see the functions and we can recognize it. Latent functions are unrecognized and unintended. It is not planned and it cannot be recognized. For example, a child going to school and being educated is a manifest function, because we can see it and it is intended or planned. Through the education, the child is going through the process of socialization, where he is learning new way of behavior and changes takes place in his or her behavior, and that is latent function, because it is an unrecognized change. There are some criticisms for the functionalist perspective. It tends to be conservative. It fails to pay sufficient importance to the changes that takes place in the system. It ignores the element of conflict and its role in the social system, because it concentrates more on the stability and equilibrium of the society. The second theoretical perspective in sociology is the conflict perspective. It derives from the work of Karl Marx. The conflict sociologists see the social world in continual struggle. They assume that societies are in a constant state of change, in which conflict is a permanent feature. Conflict does not only mean violence. It includes tension, hostility, severe competition, and disagreement over goals and values. Conflict not only means an event that disturbs the smooth functioning of the system, but it is a constant process and an inevitable part of social life. Karl Marx viewed conflict between social classes as inevitable because of the exploitation of workers under capitalism. The other conflict sociologists see conflict not only as a class phenomenon, but as a part of everyday life in all societies. Thus, when studying any field in society, the sociologists want to know who benefits, who suffers, and who dominates at the expense of others. Modern conflict theory not only focuses on the conflict between social classes, but also conflicts between women and men, between parents and children, cities and villages, rich and poor, between upper caste and lower caste, whites and Negroes, and so on. Conflict sociologists view society through the eyes of those people who are vulnerable. Next slide shows some differentiation between the two perspectives. Conflict perspective gives emphasis on social change and redistribution of resources. Hence, it is viewed as more radical and activist. It is giving importance to the social change and redistribution of resources. Whereas, the functionalist perspective focuses on the stability of society, which is generally seen as conservative. Focusing so narrowly on conflict and change is one of the major criticisms of conflict perspective. It failed to deal with more orderly and stable aspects of social reality. Interactionist perspective is another major perspective in sociology. It was initially influenced by Max Weber and later by George Herbert Mead. Here sociologists view the society as a whole through an examination of social interactions at the micro level. Micro level means between small groups, between two friends, between families, and so on. So understanding society through social interactions at micro level is known as interactionist perspective. This perspective generalizes the social behavior in everyday life. In this perspective, sociologists focus on different kinds of interactions that takes place between the people. They understand and interpret those interactions and find what actions took place after those interactions. So in this perspective, sociologists view society through the social interactions of people in their daily life. There are different approaches in interactionist perspective. First one is the dramaturgical approach by Erving Goffman. He sees social life as a form of theatre in which people play different parts and roles. Secondly, exchange approach by George Homans. He says that people control one another's behavior by exchanging various forms of rewards and punishments. Rewards are given for approved behavior and punishments are given for disapproved behavior. Ethno-methodological approach by Harold Garfinkel is the third approach. This approach is an attempt to find out how people themselves understand the routines of daily life. It focuses on how people view, describe, and explain the everyday social life and social routines. Blerner and his symbolic interaction is the fourth approach. Symbolic interaction is the interaction that takes place between people through symbols. For example, through signs and gestures, traffic signals, zebra crossing lines, etc. One of its criticisms is it neglects larger social institutions and societal processes. So that's all for today. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.